I heard about the interest rates and I thought, oh, well, that's not sustainable. Right. But I didn't know about, because there was the Luna token and this token. I didn't know, man.
Yeah, so you're talking about the stable coin, the algorithmic stable coin, not a real thing, doesn't exist, cannot be created. Fake. Just I try to drill that into people's heads.
Well, all algorithmic stable coins.
All algorithmic stable coins. I mean, DAI is semi-algorithmic, but it's over-collateralized, different thing.
Okay.
But true algorithmic stable coins, and this is why, by the way, as things started to get bad, Luna was trying to collateralize itself by buying Bitcoin, which is, again, why Bitcoiners need to worry about this.
So hold on, because that was the first time I heard about Luna. Someone was tweeting about they're going to buy 10 billion Bitcoin, and they announced it.
I think they made it to about 3 before it all fell apart.
But that actually is a bit crazy, the fact that they announced it because they pushed the price up. But do we think the reason, therefore, that they were buying Bitcoin is they realized they were screwed?
Oh, they realized they were screwed.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, the reporting that's going on, this is rumor mongering by me, so this is unconfirmed. But a little bit of what we understand is that there were people close to Do Kwon who were really trying to tell him that what he was doing was going to blow up, and he simply ignored them. Because the algorithmic stablecoin thing, it's not just that. I'll try and give like a very brief description of why they're problematic, and the Bitcoin actually plays into this. It's not just that they're trying to issue a US dollar pegged coin that has no actual US dollars backing it. It's that the way those algorithms are designed inherently creates the constant possibility of what's known as a death spiral, where the arbitrage opens up in the wrong direction. To back up just a little bit, an algorithmic stablecoin, in theory, is supposed to incentivize traders in the open market to do financial arbitrage, to keep one token close to $1 by buying and selling the other one. Unfortunately, once either of those, and especially once the peg gets too far off on the dollar stablecoin or the whatever the stablecoin is pegged to, then it becomes profitable to drive it further off the peg. It's very similar to what George Soros did to the pound in the, I think, whether it's late 80s or early 90s. He found an arbitrage and then he hammered it and took all the money out. And that's ultimately what happened with Luna. The thing about the Bitcoin buy that's super insane is that, A, yes, you publicly announced that you're going to drive up your cost basis. But B, it was never clear how this was going to be integrated into their balancing system in a systematic way, right? So you have TFL, the quote-unquote nonprofit, or LFG, sorry, I get them mixed up. So TFL is Terraform Labs. That's the actual company. Luna Foundation Guard is the, I guess it's like some third party. Maybe it's a nonprofit. And for a while, they were just sitting on the Bitcoin and saying like, hey, this is backing Luna. There was no mechanism. Nothing was defined. But the instant you put that on chain, that the actual Bitcoin becomes integrated into that algorithm, somebody will then exploit it for the Bitcoin the same way they did for the profits that they got from breaking the peg. So ultimately, you probably, if you have a fractionally backed stable coin that has like 10% Bitcoin backing it, that makes it less stable, not more, because you've put a mechanism out there for people to go in and actually take that Bitcoin if they have enough capital to knock you off your peg. So it's just an insane thing all the way down. Fundamentally broken, never would have worked.
Yeah, and the sad thing for them is they ended up unwinding most of that Bitcoin position.
I think all of it.
No, I thought there was like 180 Bitcoin left at the end of it or something.
Well, and that's the most interesting part, is that they seemed to really believe that it would work.
But they unwound the position and never managed to stabilize or get the peg back. So they could have just let it die and at least be sat there with 3 billion in Bitcoin.
And then maybe their holders would have actually gotten a little bit more back too. And instead, it all went to the arbitrageurs who are attacking the peg, exactly as, even though it wasn't automated. If it had been automated, the risk would have been even higher. But they behaved as if it were automated the same way. So
Luna was the spark for 3AC.
I think it was where a lot of the margin calls started coming from, and then once those calls started coming in and they were just ghosting exchanges, that was when it was really obvious. They did have the problems beforehand, GBTC and Steth, But also, and this is, I think, where the criminal element starts to come into it. They had basically done the equivalent of going to every bank on the street and taking out a bunch of loans without telling them that they already had a bunch of loans from the other banks. And this is not a crypto problem. And in fact, it illustrates why these big centralized players are, their lack of transparency is the problem. Because just, not even a year, maybe it was 2 years ago, the exact same thing happened at a hedge fund called Archegos that I think people probably have heard about. A guy named Bill Huang, who
was that the GameStop thing?
No. So, no, this was not nearly as degen as that, and it still managed to blow itself up. Guy named Bill Huang, one of the so-called Tiger Cubs, was running a very similar to Suzu. He had a huge macro long bet on, just a basket of equities. And he went to, Citibank. I don't want to name specific names because I don't know who exactly his counterparties were, but big names like that, and got like $1 billion here, $1 billion there. And his entire thesis was, if I keep buying this stock, I alone can drive the price up enough that this will somehow play out. And again, a totally unsustainable bad idea, but he managed to go and get all this debt. And people, just like with 3 Arrows, lost hundreds of millions of dollars because he ultimately, as soon as things turned on him, he was screwed.
From what I understand with 3 Arrows, though, from those who know them, like I said, I didn't know anything about them. I just hadn't paid any attention. People were shocked. They're like, hold on, what? 3 Arrows? Like,
right.
They were the ones. They were so successful previously. Mm-hmm. They what did they turn, like 30 million or whatever a low number was, or 3 million up into like the billions under AUM?
Well, that's the thing that we don't actually know, right? We assumed
so it could have all been bullshit.
Well, it could have all been loans. That's the thing.
Okay.
We thought from several years that they were a prop shop, that they were just trading their own money, that Kyle and Sue were geniuses who had gotten in early enough that they just had a giant pile of money under them. And it turns out that was not true at all, or at least, it was an order of magnitude different than what we thought it was in terms of what was their actual money. I'm not sure why on-chain detectives didn't figure that out at a certain point. That does seem like a gap in the intelligence. They basically were misrepresenting the nature of their entire business. And
the one that amazes me with that is Voyager giving them an uncollateralized loan.
Boy, don't ask
like,
me.
What? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, $650 million to these two guys in Singapore, and I don't know what to say. I mean, it's a huge question. It makes you sort of ask a lot of deeper questions about maybe something else was going on there. I mean, I hate to cast aspersions, but like, there is no business rationale where that makes sense, especially because Voyager was also dealing with customer funds, and retail customer funds. And so I'm left without anything to say to that. It's just, I think it's the single stupidest trade of the past year. It's going to go down in history as the worst decision anybody made during this unwind.
Well, one decision killed your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I have no explanation. I don't think there is one. It's insane.
And then Celsius, the last one on this. So Mashinsky's an interesting character. We've talked about him already. I've met him a few times. Mm-hmm. I've been quite clear publicly. I've never really trusted him. I've never really quite trusted Celsius. Now I have, for full transparency, BlockFi are a sponsor of mine. We should say that. And you, by the way, you can talk about them as much as you like. But they were always the two companies always put in the same bucket. And my very basic different understanding of the two is that BlockFi earned their yield from lending out Bitcoin to market makers and such. Started with very good rates, and their rates eventually dropped to, not particularly great rates, but the reason being is that
they changed.
They
altered it according to market conditions, right?
They didn't change.
That's what you want from a lender.
So they altered to market conditions, but they could only pay out based on the rates of what they were lending out, and because no one was really borrowing from them,
it was actually connected to what was happening in the real world.
Not some weird. They weren't gambling with funds. in the way they did. Now, look, they made we know quite publicly they made a GBTC bet that went wrong, and even with the unwinding of what happened with Three Arrows Capital, they lost 80 million there. But they are
Which
still
is getting off pretty easy, actually, compared to some other people.
Yeah, and look, there've been plenty of people telling me, why are they still a sponsor? Why do you still support this? The company's still functioning. It's still.
I mean, they never paused withdrawals,
yeah.
so that puts them in a different category. But I think that the thing that, in terms of red flags and just when you listen to somebody like Do Kwon or Mashinsky talk, and they just hammer like, we're offering this rate, we're offering this rate, we're offering this rate. Well, how are you offering the rate? I mean, I'm doing some deeper research for a Do Kwon project that I'm working on, and if you go back just even to like the beginning of the year, or maybe it was late last year, there's a fascinating video of him talking to the Stanford Blockchain Club, and he actually had somebody who was part of the team at Lightspeed that invested in Luna, which, again, no excuses. But this person was saying, oh, it's so great. There's this anchor thing, and you can get 20% yield out of it. This is a venture capital partner at Lightspeed Ventures, and she thinks that 20% interest is a feature. It's madness. It's utterly insane. And I think that, like, probably there are plenty of examples of Mashinsky taking the same tack where it's like, oh, we're offering this great rate. It happens to be in our corporate absolute trash coin, but sure, come and yield farm with us, and that's not what's going on at all. If you're oriented towards, if you consider your APR a marketing tool, you're dead in the water. Like, that is not the business that you're actually in, that's I think the mentality that led to all of this is like, we're going to gather all of these customers by offering this unsustainably high APR, and then we're going to figure out later how to deliver it, and that doesn't work.
Do we know how big the Celsius hole is?
That's a good question. Oh, the hole. I thought you meant
hole in
assets.
there.
Oh no, we figured it out over the weekend, I believe. $1.2 billion, folks.
Shit.
It's not good.
Right.
So I mean, there's no recovery, man. It's like 1.2 out of 4.5 is missing, something like that.
So they beat Mt. Gox.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to ask how that's calculated, because, and even then, I think it's understated, because if I remember correctly what I was reading, that 1.2 billion is them still counting the Celsius token that they have on their books, which they're valuing at something like $400 million. So
it's worth zero now.
It's got to be. I mean, it's not zero, and we can talk about that insanity too. But it's effectively zero. And we really, to circle back around to regulation, this whole idea that you can be like a C corp that's issuing your own token, and then that is somehow an asset. We got to get rid of that, because the incentive structure is completely broken. I mean, I think that there might be cases where it's responsible. I think, I don't know if BlockFi has their own, but
they don't have a token.
Okay, so again, a good sign, because again, people who do not understand what's going on thought that they could just get their yield in this Celsius token, and then, oh, here's your incentive. If you just park the Celsius token with us, we'll give you 30%. We'll give you even more of something that's worthless. And so, yeah, it's just like completely terrible all the way down.
And that's going to be retail funds that have been lost, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be mostly retail. Well, no, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. But I do know that their institutional lending business was waning pretty hard going into the middle part of this year.
That's a terrible scenario. I read the statement from Mashinsky where he talked about, we will see this as a, God, what did he say?
Learning. I'm going to guess learning opportunity.
No, it was similar. It was
on Twitter.
Yeah, you got to find the Celsius statement.
I am humbled. That's another one that you can go with sometimes.
We will look back at this moment as
yes.
I can't remember the word he used.
I will look back on this moment from prison with fondness.
Well, he certainly faced the prospect of going to jail for this. I think that's a very serious prospect.
Oh, I'm not joking. I mean, I think that, and this is all of them, frankly. And when we're talking about regulation, we can talk about enforcement too, which I'm a big fan of enforcement over regulation. I think that punishing people in dramatic and meaningful ways for having misrepresented themselves might be more effective than writing the rules down on a piece of paper somewhere. And fraud is fraud, right? Those laws apply across whether it's crypto or Beanie Babies or shoes or whatever. And so those are principles that you don't have to write anything new about. And so I do think that in general that is a good way to go. You just have to have public officials with the backbone to enforce the laws that are already on the books.
What's that jail here in New York? Rikers. Could he end up in Rikers?
He's not going to end up in Rikers, unfortunately.
What if they need a new VoIP system installed?
I mean, he could. They're unfortunately exploiting prisoners at Rikers to get calls home. So maybe he could do some good home.
It's a real one where I wonder what the ethical position of a libertarian would be on something like this. Is this something where you?
Well, he's a thief.
He's a thief, but what are the consequences that you would face in this scenario? Should it only ever be reputational, or should?
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of libertarians you're talking to, but I mean, at least some of them still believe that it's the role of the state to engage in policing. So
yeah, and I think fraud is one of those things that they do believe that should be.
I mean, property rights. Libertarians don't, I think, in general, understand this sufficiently, but like. Property rights don't exist without the state and enforcement, and you have to be willing to do that on some level because there will be people who find gaps. I mean, another thing that we should talk about is it is reputational, and there's the damage on the backside, but there's also like who are you putting in your money with in the front side, right? Like who are these people? And I think one of the reasons that Mashinsky managed to do so much damage is because he did have some leg to stand on reputationally.
Here we go. This is the right decision for our community and company, said Alex Machinsky. We have a strong and experienced team in place to lead Celsius through this process. Now, this is the best bet. I am confident that when we look back at the history of Celsius, we will see this as a defining moment. We're acting with resolve.
He's right about that.
Yeah, well, he's right about that, but it's the bit afterwards. We're acting with resolve.
We unbanked everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's that thing.
I love it.
Banking the unbanked.
And unbanking the banks.
Unbanking the banked. Oh God, I shouldn't laugh. I'm laughing because the jokes. I'm laughing because it's so stupid. I'm not laughing at people's misfortune. But anyway, it's this bit. We will see this as a defining moment where acting with resolve and confidence served the community and strengthened the future of the company. This company has no fucking future.
No. I mean, this is where you and this is the thing to watch out for. I mean, this is where you get people trying to publicly navigate their way out of prosecution, and like reframe history and push things under the rug that they don't want remembered, and we're going to see a lot of that.